Hey, so I wanted to show you this book I found in a big messy free box outside the closed down club, The Haunt, which is now for release. National bestseller John Krakauer, author of Under the Banner of Heaven, Missoula, Rape and the Justice System in a College Town. Missoula, Montana is a typical college town home to a highly regarded state university whose beloved football team inspires a passionately loyal fan base. Between January 2008 and May 2012, hundreds of students reported sexual assaults to the local police. Few of the cases were properly handled by either the university or local authorities. In this, Missoula is also typical. Excellent. Krakauer doesn't just tell the story of these crimes, as he has done so brilliantly in his other books. He sets the story firmly in the context of social history, the Boston Globe. In these pages, acclaimed journalist John Krakauer investigates a spate of campus rapes that occurred in Missoula over a 4-year period. Taking the town as a case study for a crime that is sadly prevalent throughout the nation, Krakauer documents the experience of 5 victims, their fear and self-doubt in the aftermath, the skepticism directed at them by the police, prosecutors, and the public, their bravery in pushing forward, and what it cost them. These stories cut through abstract ideological debate about acquaintance rape to demonstrate that it does not happen because women are sending mixed signals or seeking attention. They are victims of a terrible crime, deserving of fairness from our justice system. Rigorously researched, incisively written, Missoula stands as an essential call to action. Wow. So I was just grabbing random books to hopefully put in the free box. I need to go back and get them. And this is the only one I took because I was like, oh, wow. And this is a subject quite dear to my heart. And wow. This woman waited 15 months before going to the police. She told nobody beyond her mother and 3 or 4 close friends. Whew. Such reticence, it turns out, is common among victims of sexual assault. No more than 20% of rapes are reported to the police, a statistic that defies comprehension until one looks closely at how sexual assault cases are adjudicated in the United States. Oh, gosh. Oh, it looks dreadful. So I just wanted to share that with you. A quote from Jessica Valenti. Women get raped because someone raped them. Okay, parts of the book may be this is nice, an introduction. Parts of the book may be difficult to read. Some of the events I describe are extremely disturbing. Additionally, there is a sprawling cast of characters, several of whom have given pseudonyms to protect their privacy. To help readers keep track of who's who, individuals whose names appear more than once or twice are listed in an alphabetized dramatis personae at the end of the book on page 381. The research for this book included interviews with victims, their families, and acquaintances, and when possible, the men accused of assaulting the women I wrote about. But I didn't speak with every victim or every alleged assailant. To learn as much as I could and to corroborate what sources told me, I spoke at length with eminent psychologists and lawyers, attended court proceedings, read thousands of pages of court transcripts, court filings, emails, letters, police reports, and documents generated by university disciplinary proceedings, listening to recordings of police interviews and university disciplinary proceedings, and reviewed newspaper articles, the findings of government investigations, and scientific papers published in peer-reviewed journals. Whenever dialogue appears between quotation marks on the pages that follow, it is a verbatim quote from the person speaking, a verbatim quote from a source recounting what he or she heard the speaker say, the verbatim quote of a recording of an official proceeding, or a verbatim quote of a transcript of an official proceeding. To that end, I've written about a rash of sexual assaults in a single American city, Missoula, Montana, from 2010 through 2012. The victims of these assaults happen to be female college students, but young women who are not enrolled in college are probably at even greater risk. It's not just young women, or just women for that matter, who are in danger of being raped. The CDC report cited above estimated that approximately 2.5 million American men alive today will be raped in their lifetimes, 1.7% of the male population. Wow. 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 Ugh. See, rape is a much more common crime than most people realize, and women of college age are most frequently the victims. According to the special report by the US Department of Justice in December 2014, for the period of 1995 to 2013, females aged 18 to 24 had the highest rate of rape and sexual assault victimizations compared to females in all other age groups. The report estimated that 0.7% of this high risk cohort are sexually assaulted each year, approximately 110,000 young women. The survey was primarily concerned with documenting crime rates, however, and relied on relatively narrow definition of sexual assault. Notably, respondents to the DOJ survey were not asked about incidences in which they might have been incapable of providing consent while incapacitated by drugs or alcohol. A different federal agency, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, released a report in September 2014 that examined the problem of sexual violence from a public health perspective rather than a criminal justice perspective and paid more attention to sexual assaults involving drugs and alcohol. It generated quite different numbers. Using data gathered in 2011, the CDC study estimated that across all age groups, 19.3% of American women had been raped in their lifetime, and that 1.6% of American women, nearly 2.5 million individuals, reported that they were raped in the 12 months preceding the survey. Oh, God, that's horrible. Ugh. That's people who report. Oh. Well, on the bright side, does my hair look cool? So when I picked up this book, I was like, oh yeah, rape and the justice system in a college town, it's more like the rape system is what I was saying to my friend. And systematic rapes of females in the military. I heard this amazing lawyer done at the National Lawyers Guild in Los Angeles saying that when the military recruiters come to campus to recruit females to the army, where they're going to be most likely raped by their fellow soldiers, that she wanted to put an injunction on their military recruitment due to their high unaddressed rate of raping each other, and that what she would constitute it as a sexual solicitation for human trafficking or sex trafficking. And she wanted to put an injunction, but vice versa. I would say the colleges are basically recruiting these young females to have their lives destroyed. And I went to a school that was famous for some of the most brutal rapes ever. Like, I read a transcript about a woman who was gang raped in a fraternity house. This is like a court records I read, where she was dragged through the hallways by the gang rapists. And I was told when I was 18, don't go anywhere near the fraternities at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee, because you will be raped. And I was like, well, I don't drink alcohol, I don't party, and I don't like ruffians and sports, so I won't be going there. But that's not the end of the rape culture. The rape culture is in other places besides the fraternity house. And I don't know if I'm going to have time to read this. Oh boy, my eyes are just so messed up now that I'm getting old. Wow. Ooh, look at this. Okay, page 364. In a breathtaking display of chutzpah, given her attacks on Cecilia Washburn in the Jordan Johnson trial and her reluctance to prosecute rape cases when she was chief deputy county attorney, Pabst used her resignation from the county attorney's office in March 2012, just before the DOJ investigation got rolling, to portray herself as a reformer and longtime victims advocate. Oh, yeah. On a candidate questionnaire, she explained that she was running for the head prosecutor's job because the next Missoula County attorney needs the leadership experience and vision to bring the office in a new direction. We need to restore the public trust through accountability, education, and transparency. It's time for this divided community to begin healing. I'm committed to better delivery of services to victims of crime through cooperation, communication, and compassion. Compassion, Pabst emphasized, would be one of her primary objectives if elected. Victims of crime are thrust into the court process through no fault of their own. Compassion means that we need to treat victims the way we would treat our own family, being conscientious of their trauma and fear while helping them navigate the criminal justice system without forfeiting objectivity. With the help of the MVDW PAC that Paoli established for her, Pabst received $29,000 in campaign contributions, more than 3 times as much money as Van der Wettering, who was not supported by a PAC. Among the most generous contributions. Okay, so they went to the polls. Let's see. Violation of campaign finance, required to pay a fine. Continuing to insist that the DOJ had no jurisdiction over his office, Van Valkenburg groused that the unsparing report issued 4 months earlier by acting Assistant U.S. Attorney General Jocelyn Samuels was the single most unprofessional thing I have seen in my practice of law in 41 years. So it sounds like the district attorney got in trouble with the State Department of Justice. It hurts hugely to see my staff defamed. I can't tell the number of sleepless nights I've had thinking about how this happened. Okay, it was federal. Why does the United States Department of Justice do what they did here? As Van Valkenburg uttered these words, Jocelyn Samuels was standing a few feet away. After he finished speaking, she made it clear that she disagreed with his assessment of the DOJ's investigation. If the lawsuit hadn't been dropped and the DOJ had been forced to go to trial, Samuels stated, "I'm confident we would have prevailed," she said. "Today is a day for looking forward." DOJ did, in fact, have legal authority to both investigate and sue something, MCAO, Missoula, I don't know if it's county, while acknowledging that prosecutors generally receive significant immunity for their choices and are subject to little supervision. Burns stated, the Missoula County attorney is an elected official. If he is not required to answer to any investigation concerning his failure to protect constitutional rights of a large group of constituents, a slim majority or even a plurality of voters could continue to support an unconstitutional regime that deprives a large number of citizens of rights to which they are entitled. Whew, that's interesting. So, okay, this is, what chapter are we on? So that's kind of great that the DOJ was coming down on them in my book and coming down on a district attorney. Wow. Woo-hoo-hoo. Harsh language. All right. Chapter 31. Fred Van Valkenburg's pissing match with the Department of Justice took place during the run-up to the election for Missoula County Attorney, after he'd already indicated that he would not seek re-election when his term expired at the end of 2014. In November 2013, as the contretemps between Van Valkenburg and the DOJ escalated, the saga took a strange turn when Kristen Pabst announced that she would be entering the race to replace her former boss as county attorney. In declaring her candidacy, Pabst told KECI television reporter Emily Adamson that the county attorney's office needed more cooperation and less fighting, and then added, "I think most importantly, we need more compassion." 20 months earlier, Pabst had resigned as chief deputy Missoula County attorney. She'd said she quit in order to spend more time with her family and horses and dogs. But a month after leaving the prosecutor's office, she seemed to contradict this explanation by joining David Paoli as defense counsel for the Grizzly quarterback, Jordan Johnson. Oh, I see. This is one of the accused rapists. Then during the long lead up of the trial and through the debilitating trial itself, she and Paoli relentlessly vilified Johnson's alleged victim, Cecilia Washburn, as part of their successful effort to persuade the jury that Johnson wasn't guilty. During the final 6 years of her 15-year tenure at the Missoula County Attorney's Office, Kristen Pabst had been responsible for overseeing the prosecution of sexual assault cases. Ooh. Most of the problematic cases mentioned in the DOJ report were either cases Pabst had handled directly or cases managed by other prosecutors under her supervision. While campaigning to run the county attorney's office, Pabst disputed the veracity of the DOJ allegations, and if some cases had been mishandled by MCAO prosecutors while she was working there, she suggested Fred Van Valkenburg was to blame. I was in a place where I was really trying to effectuate positive change, and I was running into barriers, and it was difficult to do, Pabst told Missoulan Missoulian reporter Catherine Hack, as Attorney General, no, as County Attorney, I will be in a better place to make that happen. But if Pabst were to win the election and become County Attorney, Hack pointed out, returning to the MCAO as La Patrona was likely to be awkward in light of the criticisms some of her former workmates had made about Pabst's tactics during the Johnson trial. Hack noted, Deputy County Attorney Jen Clark and Pabst employed rape stereotypes and rape myths in her defense of Johnson. Clark admitted that defense attorneys use such tactics, but it was shocking to witness that coming from a former colleague and prosecutor, she said. In the last couple of years, Pabst wasn't very engaged as a supervisor and a mentor, Clark said. Clark also offered that her former boss burned bridges with other agencies like First Step, Just Response, and the Crime Victims Advocates Office. I'm concerned about the future working relationships and communication with those agencies, particularly when dealing with sexual assault cases, Clark said. In an article posted on the website BuzzFeed, Katie J. M. Baker reported that Fred Van Valkenburg dismissed Kristen Pabst's attempts to deny responsibility for MCAO's problems and throw him under the bus instead. I don't take her statements about, it's time to move the county attorney's office in a new direction. As Van Valkenburg told Katie Baker, is as anything more than political rhetoric calculated to help her get elected. Van Valkenburg said that when Pabst was chief criminal deputy attorney, she had free rein to establish any policy she thought was appropriate. She was an integral part. Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, good morning. Check that out. I think I have relatives here. I had to drive through Montana with my mom. She was like, come on, eat a steak. Show them you love them. They're ranchers. And I was like, Mom, I just became a vegetarian.